This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
I'm Bob Joseph. Welcome to Binghamton Now for Monday, July 22nd, 2024. WNBF. It is quite the day. Many expected this would happen, but probably few thought it would happen at 1:46 Sunday afternoon. President Joe Biden announcing via Twitter that he is not going to seek another term in the White House. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. That's how his one-page message posted on Twitter began. He said, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term." He said he'll speak to the nation later this week in more detail about his decision. Well, I'm anxious to hear more about his decision. Most Americans would like to know more about his decision, about the timing, what happens now, why it got to this point. So many questions. Phones are going to be open until noon, 607-772-1290. So anybody who has any thoughts about the announcement by Joseph R. Biden Jr. that he will stand down and finish serving his 4-year term as president, if you have thoughts, this is the place to call, 607-772-1290. Morning, you're the first caller. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, Bobby, this is Scotty, the Golden Gate boy from the glorious state of California.
So, America and the world learned at 1:46 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time that Joe Biden intends to stand down. Where were you when you learned of the decision?
I was in the parking lot at Trader Joe's, and my friend texted me, and it was like New Year's Eve, your birthday, the greatest day on earth, the Mets 69, the Mets 86, the Jets 1970. It was the best day. And you know what? First, let me say, let's give our due respect to Joe Biden, 50 years of civil service. This has been a good 3.5 years. Don't let the Fox News Network fool you. This has been great. The economy's rolling. But now Kamala takes over, and 99% sure of that, and it's a good day, a great day.
Well, I expected eventually he was going to come around to making what had become, I think, an inevitable decision. I just had not expected it at 1:46 Sunday afternoon. The timing is what surprised me most.
Let me say this, Bobby. Sleepy Joe played chess with the Republicans because he made them show their hand by picking J.D. Vance, which they're regretting right now. Is his name J.B. Dance, is it? J.B. Dance? I get that name all mixed up.
No, let's never make fun of somebody's name. J.D. Vance.
Yeah. And, you know, right now the Democratic convention is like going to be must-see TV, isn't
it? Well, it is now. To be honest with you, I guess it starts 4 weeks from today. I'm not sure that I was really looking forward to seeing very much of it. Now I'm looking forward to seeing every scintillating second.
Well, you know, I wasn't going to give any money because I gave $500. I gave a lot of mayonnaise back in the 2020 election. Let's put it that way. And I opened up my purse strings yesterday with like about a lot of other Americans, and I gave some of your viewers like a lifetime's worth of mayonnaise. How's that? I won't put it in dollars and cents. I'll say it's
we'll just say substantial. Substantial.
Best food. It's not Hellman's mayonnaise. So,
no, of course. Best
let's
foods.
get the conversion rate straight there, Bobby. But, you know, I got a question for you. Do you think the former guy is going to debate her?
No.
Good Lord, prosecutor versus felon? No way.
I doubt, but again, you asked me on live radio, do I think Donald Trump will debate Kamala Harris? So my instinctive answer was no, but I want to stress, that's not a prediction, because anytime I get into the prediction business, I always seem to get it wrong. So
Bobby, she's prosecuted sexual predators, rapists. My God, she's going to have a field day with that guy.
She could. On the other hand, he has several weeks to prepare, and I'm not saying that he should leave it up to himself if he wants to. And again, at this stage, it's purely up to him. If he wants to debate the likely Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris, I would say he and his team had better get working on it. There are ways, by the way, you could respond to the things she's likely to bring up. I'm not saying that there are good ways, but there are some ways to attempt to counter what she might lob at him, figuratively.
Well, let me say this, Bobby. Remember when he debated Hillary Clinton and he called her a nasty woman? That's not going to fly in 2024.
No, it's not going to fly.
That's not going to fly with the suburban. Let's put it this way. In Virginia, she's polling like 8 points better than Biden with women.
Well, think about this. If the Democrats play their cards right, and they may or may not do that, theoretically they should be able to win with Kamala Harris because there are more women in this country than men. But the thing is, the question that political observers need to really ask, who will ultimately be most motivated to vote on November 5th? Will more men vote because they love... Do you have to get that call? What are you running? Some kind of offshore wagering site?
But, they're just asking me for money.
Well, of course. That's always the danger. Once you contribute, and you've learned this well, once you contribute to anything, a political cause or charity, you're on the list. Anyway, so the bottom line is, if Donald Trump and his people can motivate a lot of his male supporters to vote November 5th, he might be able to pull it out. On the other hand, if Kamala Harris and the Democrats can motivate a lot of women, especially in the swing states, to turn out to vote, if they're concerned, say, about their rights, it's possible that it won't be close.
Well, let's say this. Women of color are not going to vote for the former guy. Highly unlikely. Maybe one or two. Of course, there's an anomaly out there. That's your SAT word of the day, anomaly.
Thank you.
Anyhow, you're welcome. Who's going to vote for the convicted former, I guess, let's call it sexual assault. The judge said rape. I'm going to stick by the rules if it was sexual assault. How can somebody like that, how do people like that? I don't know. I do not know. How does he, here's my theory, Bobby. I told my brother, I said, a lot of people give money to the former guys, EFTs and whatever scheme he comes up with. Sometimes people have to be separated from their money. Sometimes they can't control their own fate. They have to give it to hope. They're giving it to somebody because their life is, I'm going to put it, kind of bluntly. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, and I feel sorry for them. But, giving money to a former guy is not going to make things get better. Even though what he's telling you, he's like second coming of whatever. He's terrible.
Well, what if he promises that by February 1st next year, if he is sworn in as president on January 20th, the gas prices will drop across the country to $2 a gallon, although it would be $3 in California, but in every other state, $2 a gallon about 10 days after he is sworn in. Don't you think even a lot of Democrats and independents would vote for that?
It's just going to be promises, empty promises. Does he control gas prices? No. Does the president? No. It's like the oil companies. Come on, man. It's like, I think, okay. Vladimir Lenin, not John Lennon, once said that there's decades where nothing happens and there's weeks where decades happen. From that debate on June 27th till now, 3 weeks, decades happened. Am I correct?
Absolutely. It's stunning. Well, that's the view from Northern California here on Binghamton Now. It's interesting that a viewer from Northern California got through first. It must be some sort of quirk of the phone system. You would have thought somebody, I don't know, from the west side could have gotten through first this morning. But there's no explanation for telephone technology. Good morning. You're caller number 2. What's on your mind? Well, first, what's your first name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Larry from Kirkwood.
All right, Larry, what's on your mind?
That boy is delusional. Big time delusional. I mean, I can't believe what this guy was saying. I mean, they just forced Joe Biden to exit the run for the presidency. Do you see that happening with Donald Trump? No. Everybody's behind him.
No, that's true. The Republicans are stuck with their nominee. That's for sure.
And I'll tell you what, in case you don't know, Kamala Harris is polling lower than Joe Biden was. If you can believe that.
Makes no difference. The poll that counts is the poll 106 days from now. So I don't care if she's polling at minus 1,000, 90 Celsius, whatever. The poll that counts is the poll that is conducted November 5th. And, of course, some people will vote early. Early voting will start before you know it. But, again, the polls make no difference. We've been duped by countless polls in the past, Larry. And I, for one, will not waste valuable broadcast time talking about polls that may or may not represent any kind of truth.
I think you would if Donald Trump is down.
No, you have my word.
You would.
No, Larry, you have my word. I will not, unless I change my mind, I will not ever use any polling results if Donald Trump is down in the polls, unless something changes in the meantime. But it'd have to be something pretty big.
Well, anyway.
That's my solemn vow to you. Unless something drastic changes that would prompt me to use those results. Otherwise, I say, and this is a good rule of thumb for all Americans, you know, the shows that waste your time with minute after minute, sometimes hour after hour of dubious polling data, talking about what's going on in swing states and non-swing states, and with women between 18 and 25 and men between 34 and 54, whatever. It's a waste of time. The time could be better spent having callers on your program instead of talking about polling results.
Well, let's talk about what he was just yakking about with the felony charges against the president, which everybody knows that Judge Mershad, it was a joke. They weren't real charges. They just had a liberal judge with a liberal court who are able to just make these things stick. And it's just so ridiculous that somebody goes with that nonsense again. It's just ridiculous. But anyway,
let not your heart be troubled. This too shall pass.
I think it already has.
Yeah, everything is going to be fine. Thank you, Larry. Let's take another call at 1024. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Bob. This is Vinny from Binghamton.
Well, good morning, Vinny.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a Biden supporter. The man has done so much. I think if you could describe his time in the office, I think I've just never seen anybody in 4 years get so much done. And, it's so sad how this had to end. But, I look at Kamala Harris and I think, hey, Kamala, you should have as your vice president once you come out of this Democratic convention? Bernie Sanders. What do you think of that, Bob?
Excellent choice. Excellent choice. And, ironically, Bernie Sanders is older than Joe Biden.
That's what I'm saying. Yep. You pick Bernie Sanders. Oh, that would just like,
and imagine the debate. I would pay good cash money to watch the debate between Bernie Sanders and J.D. Vance. I would pay up to $20 to watch that.
Yep. I think it'd be perfect. I think it would be perfect. And oh my God. Then
how about this? An unprecedented debate involving all the candidates. So the both tickets is be sort of like World Wrestling Federation, but without the rules. So what you do is you put them in the octagon and lock the key and gradually turn the heat up. And so you've got Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Kamala Harris, and Bernie Sanders all in the octagon. And then, the guy who would do the play-by-play is Binghamton's own John Bones Jones. No, Endicott's own. John Bones Jones could be like the referee. And then finally, there'd be no official end time, but after some of the candidates clearly could take it no more, then it'd be up to John Bones Jones to decide whether it's time to shut it down.
Absolutely.
No rules, baby. No moderators. It's just the candidates. You put Trump and Vance and Harris and Sanders into the Pentagon, and I'm telling you, you turn up the heat by 2 degrees every 5 minutes and see the last person standing wins.
Oh my God, entertaining. But I just want to. Bob, is it okay? Can I talk to the Trump supporters real quick?
Oh, I wish you would. You, I think, Vinny from Binghamton, I think you, of all people, are actually in the best position to address Donald Trump supporters here, not just in Binghamton, but around the world. I will give you 60 seconds, Vinny from Binghamton, to address the supporters of Donald J. Trump.
Well, it's really short and sweet. You guys don't celebrate yet because you're still waiting for that verdict. And what's going to be for Donald Trump? Is he going to serve a month? Is he going to serve 2 months? Is he going to serve, does he have to pay for those 34 convictions? That's still out there. So, somebody might throw something in there. You just never know. This crazy season. This is the season. That was the silliness of the season, man. So just hang tight, and we'll just wait and see. But as far as the Democratic Party goes, hey, we did what we did. Let's get moving. Let's get moving.
Plenty of time, by the way. A lot of people are saying, well, wait, this is so difficult because the clock is ticking and the Democrats are going to take a licking. But the way I look at it, you can accomplish a lot in 106 days. So although I know many people have written off the Democrats and basically said, here we are, late July, and they have shifted midstream, so there's absolutely positively no way that they can topple Trump. I'm here to say maybe they can. I'm not predicting they can or will. I'm saying maybe they can. There is sufficient time.
Yeah, there is. And I'm sure that Biden had that in mind.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why he finally did it Sunday afternoon. He could have waited till tomorrow night. He could have waited till Thursday or Friday, but he did realize, okay, the Republicans wrapped up their convention, and it really, let's be honest, let's give the Republicans credit, it really was a convention. So, you can't take anything away from the Republicans for having a convention like they did. It was certainly one of the big conventions of our time. So now that was over, and I actually think that he showed a certain degree of courtesy to both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance by not making his announcement during the convention in a desperate bid to overshadow either Mr. Vance's speech or, even more importantly, the 92-minute speech that Donald Trump did Thursday night. So I think even though it's clear that Biden is a real adversary of the Trump-Vance ticket, he accorded them some real courtesy by not trying to hone in, take over their headlines on the front page of the Post.
No, that's true. Oh, Bob, by the way, I don't know how much of the RNC commercial little clips the convention, how many clips you saw or anything. Did you see Rudy Giuliani fall over those chairs?
No, but I did hear Rudy Giuliani. I was tuned in on Friday because I wanted to hear what Dan Bongino had to say about the greatest speech at a political convention in modern history. And for some reason, Bongino was interviewing Rudy Giuliani, and he made absolutely no mention of the greatest Republican presidential acceptance speech in history. I found that rather telling. I mean, what do you think? What are the odds? I mean, I like Rudy Giuliani as much as the next person, but to hear Giuliani on in the opening seconds of the very popular Dan Bongino show, I was sitting here with some of my colleagues and we were shaking our head and saying, come on, man, talk about the speech. What do you think about the speech, Danny?
No.
And all he could give us, Vinny, I was heartbroken. All he could give us was an interview with America's mayor.
Yeah. Well, some rumors said he was, hey, he had a little too much beverages because.
Oh, let's not go there. Look at that. When they go low, you go high. It's like, I think that's the slogan on the weed shop down here on Court Street. When they go low, you go high. Yeah, some weed shop. Anyway, as far as Rudy Giuliani and his wonderful interview with Bongino on Friday, I mean, don't get me wrong. I always love hearing Rudy Giuliani on WNBF. It just seemed, the timing seemed curious at best. It's 10:32. This is Bob Joseph live on News Radio, WNBF. Our number is 607-772-1290. Give us a call if you have any thoughts. Remember, we're on air at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, online at WNBF.com. Bob Joseph, I just fell out of my coconut tree here at the WNBF radio plantation. Let's go back to the phones. It's Matt from Binghamton's West Side. Good morning.
Are you making fun of the new presidential candidate because she's partially from the Caribbean?
Matthew, I would never.
It would be a clever bumper music. But anyway,
I would never. I would never take that route.
Okay. Anyway.
I said rather unconvincingly. Continue. If it please the court, continue.
I'm wondering how many people would have picked up on that.
Not many.
But anyway,
a few, because a few people understand this program works on multiple levels. Not everybody is clued in to some of the subtleties, but there are some people who are like, I see what you did there.
I see what you did. But anyway, it's going to be very interesting now. Joe Biden is a patriot. What he did, I think, is amazing. I think it's like my father used to say, if, one person tell you there's a horse's butt, you tell him to go to hell. If 5 people, or as in this case, 70% of the Democratic Party tell you something, you better start eating hay. And he listened. It took some time. You can't expect somebody to process this whole thing that quickly because he has been. I think he really believes he could be a very effective president. But when 70% of your own party thinks somebody else should be in there, you got to go. And he did it. First he was resistant some and made some statements that alarmed some people about, his interest is more important than the parties. But at the end of the day, Joe Biden, his whole life has been about that. And I think we owe him a great sense of debt and gratitude for he's going to go down as one of the greatest presidents ever. I know. Well,
don't be surprised, Matthew, if suddenly we hear proposals about renaming Riverside Drive in honor of President Biden. Can you imagine if City Council, I wouldn't put it past this City Council because 6 of the 7 members are Democrats. I wouldn't put it past these members of City Council to hold a special meeting this week, and this would put Binghamton on the map. If they rename Riverside Drive Biden Drive in honor of America's 46th president, you can bet that'll get worldwide attention.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is the Republicans are in a real bind now because they had a testosterone convention And if they had known Kamala Harris, they would have never chosen J.D. Vance as the vice presidential candidate. They're in trouble now because, first of all, what's his name there from Kirkwood? He's delusional. There's no polls that have been done since this happened. Yes, there was some matchup polls before Biden dropped out, but you can't bake in anything from that. Whole new set of polls will be coming, and I think it's going to show. Look, we now have at least one half of the ticket is no longer a geriatric ticket, and that's what everybody in the country, including all those people who are in the Republican Party who are very, very uncomfortable with Donald Trump, were, it's almost a similar situation to Hillary Clinton because of his, not for the same reasons, but for the frailty of Joe Biden, were not committed to it.
Seems to me, by the way, Matt from Binghamton, that Nikki Haley would have been the likely choice if the Republican convention was being held this week. I bet the vice presidential nominee would have been Nikki Haley.
Yeah, but I really think that, look, the other thing that happened this weekend, right after it happened, if you listen to Truth Social, the guy is so, politically, he's so not smart that he criticized Joe Biden, that he can't get off the same rant and roll about how he should never be in office. I really got elected, blah, 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 blah. He can't pivot. And if you can't expand, when you lose by 10 million votes, and you can't.
But he didn't lose by 10 million votes. He only lost by 8 million votes.
Well, okay. But when you lose by 8 million
come on, don't exaggerate. See, that's why people don't trust the media.
Now, you know what? I had a brain freeze there. I couldn't remember what it was. I knew it was a lot, but anyway, okay, he lost by 8 million votes.
Really? So it was pretty darn close. When you look at it that way, I mean, he kept the margin of victory for Biden to single digit millions.
Well, when you can't, when you have no ability, apparently, to expand the people who are going to support you, and he has, unless he totally changes his tune, which he will never do because he can't admit he's ever done anything wrong. When he's asked by the evangelicals or people about it, say, I have nothing, is there anything you're sorry for that you've done in your life? And he says, no. That is an incredible statement by the guy that's running for the highest office in the land and who has been our president before. It's scary that somebody, really thinks they have nothing to be sorry for, nothing to be contrite about. And I don't think he can change. And as long as he doesn't change, he will lose.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Nothing is a sure thing. We'll see what happens. I appreciate your call. Thank you. That's Matt from Binghamton, the former Mayor Matthew Ryan, 1040, on Binghamton's live radio program, Live and Lively. 607-772-1290. Everybody's welcome to call. If you have a phone, go ahead, see if it works. 607-772-1290. I'm Bob Joseph, here till noon with Binghamton Now. WNBF feeling good on a Monday morning as we take the most calls possible. Beverly in the town of Dickinson, you're on the air.
Hi, Bob. I called to talk about Biden there. He worked all his life, and I believe, that he should take a rest, and I mean, he done good as, he got the border stopped and so forth, but it's time for him to rest, Bob.
I was thinking that after he leaves the White House, whether it's January 20th or maybe before, I wouldn't put it past him to leave before January 20th. He might want to actually take a break sooner rather than later. I personally, and this has nothing to do with politics, this is just me personally, And I know this is going to upset some of our viewers, but so be it. And I think you'll join me when I say we would welcome President Joe Biden after he leaves the White House. We would welcome him to make his retirement home right here in Broome County, maybe in Vestal, maybe in Endwell. If he needs some suggestions, I know a couple of nice places in Endwell, a couple of really nice places in Vestal that he and Dr. Jill Biden and Hunter and the entire family will enjoy. So I have officially gone on record, even though I know some of the viewers may find that offensive, but I think most people, regardless of political affiliation or political persuasion, would join me in welcoming Joe Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and his laptop, whatever model he has now, live here in Broome County. You don't have to live in Delaware anymore.
Yeah, he's been in office for over 50 years. That's what they said since he was 31 years old.
He must be tired of it by now.
Well, I wish him the best. Bob. I mean, he did cut the border, and so forth. You know, we have to give him credit for that. You know, I mean, we have to give him credit for that. I mean, there is tons and tons and tons of people coming up the border there, and I think there's down to less than 1,000 now.
Well, I know he and Kamala Harris have been working hard for the American people since January 20th, 2021.
Right. So, well, I wish him the best. I hope he has his radio on so he can listen to everyone.
Well, I bet he's listening. I wouldn't be surprised. So would you join me in extending an invitation to Joe Biden, Jill Biden, and Hunter Biden to consider moving to some place in Broome County? Could be town of Dickinson. Could be, a nice place in West Windsor where they would like it. But do you think it would be nice if they would consider Broome County as their retirement residence?
Well, I'd let him come, even if he come for dinner.
All right. You have them over for dinner. I'll have them over for brunch the next morning.
Oh.
All right?
Yeah, we went to Cracker Barrel yesterday. You got to hear this one. Me and my friend went to Cracker Barrel. We had a good breakfast, right? When it comes to the bill, of course, I had a gift card, so I used it. And they charged $3.19 for one cup of coffee each. So it come to almost $30.
Well, sounds like pretty darn good coffee.
Well, you know what? I drank it so fast, and I was going to ask for another one. and he said you could have. When he gave us the bill, I was going to ask him for another cup of coffee, and my friend says, "Well, let's ask him." Well, I didn't want to ask him. I did, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't want to pay $3.19.
Well, they might have given you a free refill if you asked politely.
But they got good food up there.
Oh, the meatloaf.
Oh, yeah, the meatloaf was good. But
you know what they say, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
We had scrambled eggs. We had hash brown casserole. We had bacon. We had biscuits with gravy, sausage gravy, and it was good.
Well, it's health food. It's not only is it comfort food, but it's healthy. Appreciate your call.
We had a nice time.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Some of our neighbors that we hadn't seen in a long time.
Well, I'm glad you had a good Sunday.
Okay, you have a good day.
Thanks. It's 1049 WNBF with Bob Joseph, a friend of the people. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning there, Bob. It's Dave from Vestal. How you been?
Never better.
Good. Hey, you were right on your prediction about Biden. Of course, that kind of an easy prediction. So, what do you think about Harris? You think, Bob, they're going to try to repackage her, rebrand her, and I don't see how it's going to work because there's no such thing as a crash course on intelligence. The cat's out of the bag. I don't see how they stick with her. What do you think?
I think they will stick with her. I think the biggest question, will the Republicans stick with Donald Trump? Even though he now officially has the party's nomination, is there something that could happen over the next few weeks that could cause the Republicans to hold an emergency convention?
Yeah, something could happen, like the Secret Service not doing their job again.
Well, the Secret Service director is on right now, and she is making it clear. And in fact, I'm glad you brought it up. She is making it crystal clear that she understands that what happened a little over a week ago in Butler County represents the agency's most significant operational failure in decades.
The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency.
That's rare. You rarely hear anybody, a president, even a former president, ever take full responsibility for anything. So that alone means she deserves at least a 25% raise simply for taking full responsibility for the lapses that occurred July 13th.
If you turn it around, Bob, if Trump was president and Biden was running, Trump would have fired her in 5 minutes.
I have no doubt, because he used to host a program where he took some sort of sadistic pleasure at firing people.
No, because she would have deserved it. You don't agree?
I don't have to make that decision. Don't ask me. I don't employ Kim Cheadle. She's not an employee of Bob Incorporated. So you're asking me regarding a situation. I don't even have 1% of the facts regarding what happened July 13th. So I can't make an informed decision about whether she ought to be fired. One thing I will say, it really is impressive that she is taking full responsibility for what happened in Butler County.
We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again.
She really doesn't have a choice, Bob, because it's obvious there were problems, so she has to admit it.
She didn't have to. If she was president or a former president, she would never admit it, even when something was that obvious.
Yeah, well, okay.
No, I mean, we've talked about this before. There are some people who are predisposed never to admit any kind of mistake, and we know who his name is.
Bob, did you notice that with her DEI theory there, where they got a bunch of women there protecting the president?
Hey, I will have none of that. If you're going to start putting out statements of that nature, you're going to have to wait till Bongino comes on. I'm serious. Bongino and Hannity and Levin, if they want to go that whole bashing women and bashing DEI, hey, they're welcome to do it. It's a free country. It's not going to happen on this program.
I didn't mean it the way you took it, Bob.
Well, I was scared. I didn't want to go there. I thought you were going to go down a road that this show doesn't go down. This show doesn't go down the roads that Bongino and Hannity and Levin go down. This show takes the high road.
Well, if you watch closely, the Secret Service agent, a couple of them, nervous that they couldn't even holster their gun. They were so nervous. I don't think I'd want anyone that under stress like that, performing that way. I would get rid of them too.
Well, I'll say this about people in law enforcement in general. Remember, this is irrespective of gender. I know people in law enforcement, including some around here, who've had serious trouble handling their weapon, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay. So, the implication that so many gave, the instant critics, the armchair quarterbacks, everybody on Monday morning wanted to weigh in on how things went during that short sequence of events on that horrific Saturday evening in Butler County. But the fact is, never lose sight of the reality that over the decades, over the centuries, there have been many people in law enforcement in the heat of the moment who have not performed the way they would have hoped, not the way they would have hoped, for example, that they did during training. And it's easy. It's easy, and in some cases, people make a sport out of second-guessing the way law enforcement responds in a stressful situation. And I find a lot of the instant analysis of how the Secret Service responded a few minutes after 6 p.m. on July 13th, I find a lot of that to be offensive.
Well, I know gender really doesn't matter because...
No, it doesn't really matter, but a lot of people made it matter.
Real quick before I go, Bob, on Kamala real quick. Bob, she does, you could be right. They may keep her because she checks boxes for them, a woman and of color. But Bob, what about the intelligence box? What about that?
I have a response about that, but I'm not going to put it on the air because I don't want to risk offending some viewers. Because... and I'm going to choose my words carefully here because I know our viewers, some of them are sensitive. And my instinctive response was to talk about some other former presidents. And then I decided against it because that's not really appropriate. A lot of our listeners would have nodded in approval, but I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say, I believe Kamala Harris, this is actually... Listen carefully. I think now would be a good day for Kamala Harris to become president. I think now or tomorrow, sometime within the next 24 to 30 hours, I think it would be to her benefit, especially since Republicans are calling on Joe Biden to resign since he decided he's not going to go forward seeking a second term. I think Biden should call their bluff and resign. Resign as of noon tomorrow. And then Kamala Harris becomes president, I think people would be impressed. So Biden should call the bluff of the Republicans who are saying he should step down now, not wait for the remainder, a little less than 6 months in his term. Step down now, and that means Kamala Harris would become president, and then we'll see what happens. You see what I'm saying? That's when the fun will begin. That's when you'll be able to see exactly what Kamala Harris is made of. So maybe they'll do that since the Republicans want it so badly. It's 10:57. Bob Joseph working for the people on WNBF. 607-772-1290. Let's hit the lines and let's hit them hard. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Paul from West Windsor.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, I wonder how many people actually listened to the 90-plus minute speech of the President Trump.
I would guess probably tens of millions of Americans.
Yeah, but that's a small percentage of the whole population. But the reason I called is it was a very detailed speech. I listened to every minute of the speech and the other speakers, too. And he took a great amount of time to prepare that speech. And I think if people listen to what he thought the mistakes that were made and how they could have been obliviated and how he could have done better. But that was not the most important part. He put in there what he was going to do. He put in there about the Green New Deal. He didn't think it was good for America. And he put in there about the resources in the United States. Our continent is the richest in the world. North America, South America, everybody loves the resources we have here. Even China's trying to buy our resources. They're going to Africa and buying resources. We have everything we need to make America great again, just like he said. and he knows how to do it. This is one of his goals, knowing what has to be done to make us energy independent and a seller of energy to the rest of the world. We have the technology to now that we got cars running on a small amount of gas and everything, the technology, we don't have to depend on electric cars. The batteries, he talked about the batteries and how the batteries.
Yeah. Did he say anything about Endicott?
Did he say anything about Endicott?
Yeah, with their battery factory. Did he say what's going to happen with that? Because my concern is if he becomes president on January 20th, is he going to shut down the Endicott battery plant?
Well, as far as batteries goes, they're always going to be a part of our energy system. We're just not going to fly planes and tanks and everything with them and boats. And we're going to need batteries, but we can't make it the number one source in case of a war or a battle or something like that.
Yeah, but did he say if he's going to do anything to support the Endicott plant? Because what we need is for those batteries to start getting produced, mass produced, so we could have hundreds of high-paying jobs. That's what I'm concerned about.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of batteries they're producing, but I know China is making the car batteries, and they're making them down in Mexico. And China's way ahead of us in that, but we have enough natural resources here to make America great again. And if anybody would have listened to that speech, it was in great detail. And it saddens me to know that a small portion of our population listened to that speech.
Well, it saddens me that somebody would spend more than an hour in 2024 thinking that people are going to listen to it. I don't understand why anybody, and this is not a political thing, this is strictly just the way it is. You don't have to like it, but the way it is in this country, anybody who speaks for longer than 60 seconds can pretty much count on most people not wanting to hear what they have to say. If you can't make your main points in about 10 minutes, then you don't have the ability to communicate in this fast-paced society we're in. People don't have that kind of attention span. This is not the 1930s. This is people have the attention span of a gnat. So if you're giving a major speech and you don't get to your major points in about 10 or 11 minutes, you're going to be sadly out of luck.
There wasn't a lot of redundancy. When you're talking about what you're going to do when you become president, there wasn't a lot of redundancy. He talked about specifics, very specific things that he would do.
I'm not saying it was a bad speech. I'm saying not many people probably paid attention to the whole thing, even if they wanted to. Even the people who were among his most ardent supporters probably at the first 10 minutes started to get antsy.
Well, yeah, I agree with you.
Don't you agree? You watched the whole thing. You tell me. Be honest with me. I'm not being mean. I'm asking a serious question. Don't you think that Donald Trump could have made all of his biggest points from last Thursday night's speech in about a quarter of the time?
Yeah, he got up there and he kind of overwhelmed with his possibilities.
Well, okay, I get it. And by the way, I'm not saying, look, you've heard me on this program. I'm rarely at a loss for words. So I understand what it's like once you get going, that it's hard to stop. But I'm saying for maximum effectiveness, this is what I would have, and by the way, I understand Donald Trump takes advice from no one, so he'd never take advice from me. But say if I gave him one bit of advice about his acceptance speech last Thursday night, say what you need to say in 15 minutes or less.
Well, excuse him for his love of America, but he wanted to make sure everybody knew what he was going to do. And he took great efforts and went to great extremes to try to make it clear, because he truly does love our country and he knows what to do. This guy just knows what to do.
All right. Well, if he's president again next year, I want my gas $2 a gallon. I want lamb speedies to be available for under $10 a pound. I'm looking forward because I know one thing he said is that he was going to deal with inflation. I can't remember the exact words, but he gave me the impression that prices are going to start coming down. So if it turns out he's president this time next year, gosh, prices had better be lower next year on July 22nd than they are right now.
Well,
because I'm fed up with these high prices. By the way, I don't believe Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or anyone can control the price of anything. See, that's the thing that galls me the most, and it's not just limited to one person. Anybody who goes around saying they can control the price of gasoline or the price of Cheetos, it's not true. They don't control the price of a darn thing.
he's going to tap into our natural resources like you've never seen.
All right. Well, suffice to say, I'm as excited about the next 106 days as you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I have no idea. I have no horse in this race. I'm just an innocent bystander with a microphone. I'm just calling it, hey, I've got a microphone and a telephone. And just, as more stuff comes in on my big stack, then we'll play more of that stuff from the big stack of stuff. Hi, WNBF, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Bob. This is DJ in Binghamton. What I see the clearest, what I get the most out of this whole situation is that when the bullets were flying, usually there's a stampede. People get knocked over, they get bones broken, they die. But that didn't happen when the bullets were flying. But then the other side turned against their own party, like dogs do. They ate their own people. The guy got old, he got sick, and they turned on him. And that's the most disgraceful thing that could ever be done to a person. So that's one thing. Another thing is, when they got Betsy Ross to stole that flag, the founding fathers, it was needless to say, this was a Christian nation that got her to do it. She stole 13 stars representing the 13 colonies. And he was shot on the 13th. So those are the two physical things you notice and the spiritual thing that you notice that you cannot close your eyes to. People are calling up this morning sounding so ridiculous, but they know the truth.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. By the way, have you tried the new Pepsi flavor yet?
I don't drink rot gut, anything that rots the gut.
Okay. Well, you're smart. I commend you. 1120 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Roger from Coconut.
Good morning, Roger.
And how are you this morning?
Never better. Re-energized, more enthusiastic than I have been in the last decade.
I'm glad. I'm listening to DJ.
Pretty good call, eh?
We're listening.
So that's one thing. Another thing is, when they got Betsy Ross...
He's talking there about Betsy Ross.
Yes.
Not sure what Betsy Ross has to do with it. Didn't she make a flag? She made the flag, and then I think she also made some chocolate chip cookies. I think the Betsy Ross Cookie Company.
I bet they were good, too.
They were tasty. Real chunks of semi-sweet chocolates.
Nothing like chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, they used to call them Toll House cookies.
Yes.
I don't drink rock gut, anything that rots the gut.
Okay. You're smart. I commend you. 1120.
He said that he doesn't drink things like Pepsi either.
Roger from Coconut.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. What's on your mind, Roger?
Oh, just a couple of things real quick. People seem to love to bring up this rape thing against Donald Trump. Was he ever charged, tried, and convicted of that? I don't think so, until it wasn't even brought up until he decided to run 2 months after he decided to run for re-election. Number two, on the 34 felony convictions, that was pulled from a 6-year-old paper violation. And that was passed over by 4 prosecutors, including Cyrus Vance and the current prosecutor, and they still haven't given the base law that he violated. But the third thing, and this is the most important to Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. When we vote for somebody, for president to dog catcher, I'm not voting on their gender or their race. I'm voting on whether they can get the job done. And I don't care what color, what race, their sexual orientation. All I want is people that can get the job done. And I think we ought to take gender and race and sexual orientation out of our politics and stick to the people that can get the job done.
And I think, just as a general rule of thumb, we should elect officials who don't go around bragging about grabbing people inappropriately.
Or sniffing hair in children.
Hey, we need some decorum. We need some decorum in America. And if you're going around grabbing people inappropriately, and then bragging about it, it's bad enough that it's done, but then to brag about it as though it's something you would tell your friends in some sort of twisted locker room, that's not humor. That's called, Houston, you got a problem. 11:23, good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Randy from the town of Dickinson.
Hey, Randy.
Shalom, Bob. Shalom. I agree with you what you said earlier about Carmella. I mean, they should put her in the ball game right now, see whether she can carry the ball without fumbling or score a touchdown. I mean, this is her acting debut. I mean,
this now is her time to shine. Plus, it would give her the ability to have the power of the incumbency, because my thought is if she's president of the United States for the next few months between now and Election Day, so it's a little over 3 months before the elections are going to be held, so she could prove once and for all if she has what it takes. We'd be able to see her on the job, and if she's capable of running this great land of ours, then she could earn the vote of many Americans, including possibly some Republicans and independents. And if she proves to be incapable of handling things, then I guess by default the Republican candidate would win.
No, I agree with you 100%. She could use the office, the incumbency advantage, and she could hold press conferences every other day or whatever.
Every day.
Or be on TV.
Every day. She could hold a news conference every night at 9.
Yeah, and she wouldn't have to travel around the country.
She wouldn't have to she wouldn't have to even leave the White House. She could stay in the Rose Garden. It could be her Rose Garden strategy, and she could invite only specially selected reporters to ask questions that she feeds them in advance. And she could have sort of a love fest on TV every night for the next 3 months.
I don't know what Joe Biden's motivations are. I mean, if he wants to remain in office, so if Kamala loses, he could pardon his son, or maybe he talked it over with Kamala and said, "Hey, why don't I just keep an eye on the House, and you go out and you try to make sales. You just concentrate on campaigning, and I'll run the country. Don't worry about it."
Well, maybe that's part of the deal. Maybe there's more to this than meets the eye. Maybe, I can think of a lot of things. So, you can speculate, I can speculate. Yeah. The bottom line is, so far, Joe Biden he hasn't given a speech from the Oval Office. He hasn't held a news conference to answer my questions. So at this point, here we are, nearly 22 and a half hours after he tweeted his decision. He hasn't answered any questions, and the questions grow by the hour.
And if you throw Kamala on the field, the Republicans are, if she comes up with some good ideas that she wants to work on, and the Republicans think it's going to hurt their chances for Donald Trump to get elected, they're going to fight her tooth and nail. And people can see that. You throw her on the field now, and you'll see, hey, the rest of the team's not blocking for her. The Republicans aren't blocking for her. They're just leaving her out on the field alone. They're not giving her any help or support, and people in the country can see that.
All right. We'll see what happens. Maybe she'll make a big announcement. Actually, speaking of that, stand by, please. Stand by, please. I've been told that Kamala Harris may be preparing to address the American people over the next few minutes. So stand by, please. If she starts to address the American people, we may take that live. So stand by. Oh, the anticipation. It's 11:27. Bob Joseph, Binghamton Now. As we continue our conversations with people from Binghamton and beyond, Bonnie in Binghamton, you're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. Bob, I just wanted to call up because I think I heard earlier a conversation or a discussion about the intelligence of Kamala Harris. I just wanted to share with the people that are listening that for those of you who don't realize, she graduated from Howard University and then moved on to the University of California, Hastings College of Law, where she received her law degree. From there, she went on to be a DA for Alameda County and then a DA for San Francisco before she became the Attorney General of California, and then from there to be a senator. I think it's important for people to recognize that this woman is not stupid. She's the most powerful woman that there is in the United States, very intelligent, very strong, very down to earth, has a great moral and ethical belief behind her, taking care of children, and a variety of downtrodden people.
How do you compare her moral and ethical beliefs to J.D. Vance or Donald Trump?
Well, let me just say this about Donald Trump. Donald Trump graduated from a University of Pennsylvania, receiving a bachelor in economics, and then filed bankruptcy, I don't know, 20 times. I'm making that up. Of course, he didn't file it for 20 times, but somebody that receives a bachelor in economics should never have to file for bankruptcy, right? Right, and I can bet you that Kamala, and this is the J.D. Vance to Kamala's, J.D. Vance believes that all women should not have rights to control their own bodies, unlike Kamala Harris, who believes that women should have right to control their own body.
Do you think that is going to be a very important issue in this election, especially for women, but even for many men? Don't you think many men might consider that as a key issue when they vote in November?
Absolutely. I mean, I think women need to be afraid. I think black people need to be afraid. I think, again, I've said this before, LGBTQ people need to be afraid. I think J.D. Vance is the complete opposite of a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris kind of person, where he believes white men rule. Women believe women can't make up their own mind. They don't have an intelligence. I think he is disgusting as an individual.
But if you could say one good thing about him, what would it be?
He doesn't live in New York.
All right. And actually Trump doesn't anymore. I know a lot of people. I think Sean Hannity, he used to live in New York. He moved to Florida. Rush Limbaugh, who used to be on this station, he was in New York. He left. So it is interesting, the number of Americans, when you look at it, who don't live in New York. I mean, I love New York. Don't get me wrong. I think New York is absolutely the best state in the nation by far.
Well, yeah, but if you have a MAGA right thought process, being in a democratic environment is probably not the most comfortable place for somebody to be, right? So we have to move. These folks move into
Do you think that's why many people who are, that political persuasion don't like New York and then want to move to places like Florida or Texas or Tennessee? Is that one of the reasons why they have a propensity for leaving the Empire State?
Could be. Right? I mean, I think everybody has their own personal reasons.
I thought mainly it was taxes. I mean, for a lot of people who moved from New York to Florida, I thought it was mainly because they wanted to save a lot of money on taxes because they're so wealthy.
Well, the wealthy, let me just say this. Donald Trump, there was a period of time, probably 7 to 10 years, where Donald Trump paid zero in taxes. And then he paid, following 2 years, $795 in taxes each year. So, if you're not paying any taxes anyhow as a mega rich person, then that can't be the reason they're leaving New York, because they're not paying taxes.
Yeah, interesting. It's very puzzling. Thank you for your call. It's 11:34 at WNBF. Gary on the west side. You're on the air.
Bob, I love New York. And I'll tell you why. I think you're right. People leave for money reasons. Okay, we are highly taxed, but those tax dollars go to helping downtrodden people. And I support that. That's just me. May not be popular, but I do support that. When all of this stuff was going down, when Joe Biden said, okay, I'm stepping down, there was a couple of things. I looked at the family. And so Dr. Jill came out with a letter stating, how she just said some good things about him. And also his son Hunter said some very good things about him. And he finished his statement with, I love you, Dad. Okay. Now, some people may say and may hate, dislike that because they don't like Hunter. They don't like Jill. They just don't like the Bidens. I thought that was pretty good. Now, if I can go to the Republican convention, I got to ask you a question, Bob. Did they
use
AI to get Melania there, or was that really Melania?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know Melania that well, so because I've never met, I'd love to meet her. I've always been pleased to meet first ladies. I think I've had the honor of meeting Hillary Clinton was when she was a first lady. Had the honor of meeting Laura Bush several months before she became first lady, but I still haven't had a chance to meet Melania Trump. But I would welcome her in the WNBF studio.
I think it was really Melania, because if it was AI, they would have done an AI for his son, too, Barron, who was not there. Now, your son's not there.
Oh, where was Barron?
Oh, yeah. When you're getting the nomination for president, you should have your family's support because they love you, right? And he's not even there.
That's right. I mean, a lot of the other family members were there, but right, where was Barron?
I don't know. So.
I mean, he's old enough now that he's 18. He can make his own choices. But let me be uncharacteristically blunt, if you don't mind, Gary. If one of my parents had just been nominated to be president of the United States, you're darn tootin' I'd be there.
Does that say that the closest people to him really don't support him that much? I don't know what that says.
I don't know what it says. That's another person who I have yet to meet, but would love to. Barron Trump. Barron, if you're listening, give me a call after the show. I'd love to have him in the studio because I have a few questions for Barron Trump.
And not so quick with Harris, being the nomination. They're saying that now. But you got Joe Manchin that's in the background. He's kind of itching to get in this. And maybe even Bernie might say, hey, you know what? I'm going to run too. So we're going to see what happens. Now, there are good possibilities too with, the vice presidential nominee. They're talking about the governor of Pennsylvania. They're talking about a lot of governors that will fit in there. And it's a new world.
By the way, just so you know, Joe Manchin has pulled his plug. So, yes, he was flirting. And I think it's
no?
Yeah,
okay.
he just said no this morning. So he was flirting yesterday.
He's on ABC.
Yeah,
right.
he reminds me of some of those people who just do things for attention. And I think yesterday he floated that idea that he was thinking about challenging Kamala Harris. But this morning, he clearly, somebody pulled him aside, not literally, but figuratively. Someone gave Joe Manchin the word, like, knock this, whatever you think you're doing, buddy, knock it off right now. And so he was on TV this morning saying, basically, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't think he had a chance. But, we've talked about this before, just the oldness of who was running. We wanted young people. Well, we got somebody young now. Does that make it right? No, there's still things that,
No, I want younger.
I do.
I want somebody like J.D. Vance, who's not even 40 yet.
Bob, I just want to comment on another thing about Biden, too.
Yeah.
Right? So they're kicking him out because they're not really kicking him out, but they're saying, maybe you should step down because you're older, you're not as sharp as you once was. So this is the end of his career. Let's go to the beginning of his career. They were criticizing him then for being the youngest senator. He's too young. He can't do the job, all of this. And what are we, 40 years later?
I know.
Look at that.
I know. To be fair to Joe Biden, they got the Republicans, the nattering nabobs of republicanism got him coming and going. He was too young at one point when he showed up on the scene, and here he is now after decades of service to this great country, and they're saying that he's too old. So the nattering nabobs of republicanism have had it in for Joe Biden right from the start.
I thought his ego might have got the best of him, but he proved me wrong. He did what he thinks is the right thing, and of course, there was a lot of pressure there. But some people won't step down, even if they're told to step down, and but he didn't. He came through and he did what he feels is the right thing for the Democratic Party, but more important for the country.
And I think in the end, he's going to be viewed not so much necessarily this year or even next year, but I think history will view Joe Biden as a 21st century American statesman.
Could be. History is written by people. And
well, they say history is written by the winners, so I guess if that's the case, if Donald Trump becomes president next year, he and J.D. Vance will have a chance to write history. So if that's the case, probably Biden won't be viewed by those history books as being a statesman. Thank you very much for your call, Gary. It's 11:41. Bob Joseph, serving all the people, all the time on WNBF.
Now, breaking news on your news leader. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
WNBF Live at 11:44 with Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now. Vice President Kamala Harris is appearing at the White House, and her appearance is coming about 22 hours after President Joe Biden announced that he is not going to seek a second term as President of the United States. So we're standing by right now. Vice President Harris is planning to deliver some remarks at an event celebrating the National Collegiate Athletic Association championship teams from the 2023-2024 season. And Kamala Harris is now being introduced at the White House. Interestingly, to me, it's fascinating that Kamala Harris is about to speak, and nowhere in sight at the White House is President Biden. Now, understandably, the last we knew, he was still isolating. He was self-isolating after he tested positive for COVID last week. So he probably is still at his beach house in Delaware. But still, it's fascinating to me that the announcement that was made that he would not seek another term as President of the United States was something that he tweeted. President Biden decided to make the announcement via Twitter instead of addressing the American people from the White House. He says he'll do that later in the week. So it is certainly a curious situation that we have right now where Kamala Harris is presumed by many to be the likely Democratic presidential nominee. The party's national convention is scheduled to get underway 4 weeks from today in Chicago. So let's listen to a bit of the introduction of Kamala Harris at the White House. Again, this is an event called NCAA Sports Day. So it's unclear what, if anything, Kamala Harris is going to say about what's transpired in the last 22 hours.
Everyone, greetings. And Linda, I want to thank you for all you do to support.
This is live from the White House, WNBF Binghamton.
It's good to be here with so many leaders. including, of course, members of Congress, members of our administration, and our extraordinary athletes. Our president, Joe Biden, wanted to be here today. He is feeling much better and recovering fast, and he looks forward to getting back on the road. And I wanted to say a few words about our president. Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office. And I first came to know President Biden through his son, Beau. We worked together as attorneys general in our states, and back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. He would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man that Joe Biden is. The qualities that Beau revered in his father are the same qualities that I have seen every day in our president. His honesty, his integrity, his commitment to his faith and his family, his big heart, and his love, deep love of our country. And I am firsthand witness that every day our President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation. And so with that, on behalf of our president and Dr. Biden, I am honored to welcome all of you to the White House to celebrate the achievements of these great athletes.
And there you go, live from the White House, Vice President Kamala Harris speaking 22 hours after President Biden tweeted he would not be seeking another term. Since then, President Biden has expressed direct support for Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee. It's 11:49, WNBF Live on this Monday morning. Paul in Owego, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Bob. How are we doing today?
We're doing great.
Hey, I was a vegetable farmer for over 50 years, and I think I figured out why we're having all this hot weather. It's because of this Freon 404A that they dumped at the Treadway.
Well, I don't know that that alone would be responsible for the warm weather in Tioga County.
Yeah, well, this week my cousin's preparing to get the cider mill up and running. It's going to be opening the 1st of August for those nice donuts and those cider slushies.
That's true. They open every August. The thing about the cider mill is they're open for just a short window every year. They're only open from basically from August 1st to usually around December 1st.
Yeah, my grandfather bought that property from the Stevens family in 1942.
Really? On Nanticoke Avenue?
On Nanticoke Avenue, yeah. That's where Endicott Fuel Supply was. They had a coal yard there, right by the railroad. And they also had the cider mill. Many farmers made their mephiglum. I don't know if you know what that is.
I have no idea. What is that? Was that something you put on the donuts?
Honey, raisins. It's hard cider, Bob. Mainly, a lot of the Polish people were big on that mixture.
All right.
They had honey that they produced their own bees, and they were big on booze.
Well, a lot of people are, I've been told.
And make Applejack.
All right. Well, I used to eat those when I was a kid.
The Applejack?
Yeah, it was by Kellogg's. They were better than, I say they're better than Lucky Charms.
Yeah, but this was pretty potent stuff.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about a different Applejack.
Yeah, this was the Polish way of entertainment. They were good at it.
All right. Well, hey, I'm going to try to squeeze in a couple more calls. You keep an eye.
Sounds good. Have a great day, Bob.
Thank you, sir. Keep an eye on what's going on out there. 11:52. Rob from Port Crane, you're on the air.
Hi, Bob. I thought she was going to announce she's going to run with Hillary, because I think she is.
Well, she might. It's either, here's my thought, it could be Hillary or it could be AOC. Who of those two, who would be better, AOC or Hillary, to be the running mate of Kamala Harris?
Oh, either one's great with me. Hillary's going to be it, though, because, as you recall, it was her money, according to Donna Brazil's book, that kept the DNC from collapsing.
Well, whatever. I don't know what to believe anymore. Be honest. A lot of what I see on TV and hear on the radio and read in the papers, a lot of times I have my doubts.
Well, don't forget, too, Kamala was always the first to drop out of the presidency.
Remember, her name is Kamala. And so think punctuation, because even at this late date, people are still having difficulty pronouncing her name. So think of Kamala. Kamala.
Bob, when she was in Cleveland, when she was campaigning with Joe Biden, she got off the plane and said, "Hi, Cleveland, it's Kamala."
Well, I don't know. Maybe she had been confused, or maybe it was a lack of oxygen on the plane. Kamala.
Well,
Kamala. Let's say it slowly, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Kamala.
Look what she did to the border, Bob.
Well, she can't be responsible for everything. She's only the vice president. What do you think about some of these people who are calling for President Biden to resign right now, and then, because of the way it works, if Biden resigns, say today or tomorrow at noon, then Kamala Harris becomes president? What do you think about that?
No, I think that's a horrible idea. She's terrible.
Well, then why are some Republicans calling on Biden to resign right now?
Because they're not very bright, Bob. That's called the deep staters, the uniparty.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I just wanted it on the record, because it did strike me as odd. Thank you, Rob. 11:54 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Kamala.
Oh, hi. Got a bad connection. Good morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is John. I'm from Binghamton. I'm on the air, right?
You're on WNBF Live. What's on your mind?
Well, the woman that was talking about how great Kamala Harris is, and she went back through her history and everything. Well, Kamala Harris had 3.5 years to come up with the ideas that somebody else was just saying she could come up with some great ideas. Well, she had 3.5 years. But you find fault with the fact that Donald Trump spent 92 minutes talking about what he was going to do, and we haven't in 3.5 years heard what Kamala Harris is going to do. But that woman that called, she certainly invoked all the Democratic, cheat sheets and points by saying that we should all be afraid. That's what the woman said. She said we should all be afraid. That is Democratic talking points. Just wanted to tell you that, there's a thing called a picture called the pale blue dot. Are you familiar with that, Bob? The pale blue dot?
I'm unfamiliar with the pale blue dot.
You are. That's the dot. That's the picture of the Earth that Voyager 2 took as it turned around.
The Carl Sagan book. Oh, I thought you were talking about something else. Oh.
Bob,
no, I thought you were talking about something that had something to do with Twitter before that billionaire bought it. Now, that was like the pale blue bird.
In 92 minutes, actually in 20 minutes is what you gave Donald Trump to make all his points. You wanted him to bring up something in Endicott, New York, about a battery factory. That's what you were looking for.
I didn't say I wanted. I asked the guy who called in, who listened to the whole speech, did he mention anything about it? I didn't say I wanted him to. I was just curious if he did.
But you said he should have said something about that.
Well, it would have been nice. Would have been nice for him to say something nice about Broome County. But he didn't, so, hey. guess that's okay. It's all the time we have for today. Don't worry, we'll do it all again tomorrow. I'm Bob Joseph, WNBF.